I would say in the last 5 years, we really just deep dived into the personal development world. And one of the biggest things I got from it is, one, be careful who you give a whole lot of money to for personal development. But two, the big thing, because I'm there again, it's those impulsive decisions. Oh my gosh, I have to have that course, or oh my gosh, I have to go to the conference.
Right.
But one of the biggest things is when I would go to those conferences or buy those courses, the people on the stages and behind the camera owned their ADHD. They owned their whatever it is. They, took it by the horns or the squirrel nuts or whatever you want to call it, and just ran with it and didn't let it control them.
All right. Welcome to this episode of Thundercast. Today we have Lori Jewett, and she just wrote her awesome book, ADHD, which is about ADHD. And she's just started her podcast recently as well. And she's on this small business journey. And thank you for being here, Lori.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
I am so excited to ask you about your book and all about ADHD, because I've got ADHD. So we'll just make this episode about me, right? We can just pick on me the whole episode. But what made you decide to write the book?
So it's a funny story. The book started out as because I just thought I was supposed to. So the book originally was supposed to be like a bunch of stories about the dumb stuff I've done because of my ADHD, right? Like it'd be funny, entertain people, because everybody loves to laugh at the dumb things that I do. And then it evolved into helping other people realize that there is so much more to any neurodivergence or anything. We all have something that society or modern medicine or whatever has told us is a deficit that could actually be a superpower. And so it evolved into what is now my passion. It's kind of funny that it happened that way, of helping people realize that they have a superpower. They just have to realize it and embrace it.
I agree. I've heard that a lot about ADHD. And I think, it's funny they call us neurodivergent, but, there's definitely, I think there's real illnesses out there where people cannot function at all. But in the band, I think normal is more of a spectrum, right? We're saying, the neurodivergent spectrum, right? Oh, they have spectrums for everything. I think normal is more of a spectrum, right? And I think ADHD falls on that spectrum. I saw a great study, and maybe we could talk about it. It talked about people have ADHD. It's part of a survival mechanism for a community. And, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, it was very critical. So there's a reason why it has survived. And that's, I guess, if that's is how they define it. But I keep hearing different definitions. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the definition of ADHD.
So, essentially, you're absolutely right. There's a line, and everybody's different. And you and I talked about it a little bit before we hit record. Boys and girls have exhibit it differently. We grow in and out of different phases. So it really, kind of depends on the person. But for me personally, I can talk about that. I am very spontaneous. I make a lot of really instant bad choices, which is kind of what was supposed to be the book. Like I have to have this hay tent put up right now in the middle of November, like $300 hay tent, and my husband and everybody just obliged and put it up, and within like 12 hours the wind knocked it over because it was in the middle of a snowstorm in November. Like these are the kind of things that I'm like, it has to be right now. And for me, it's very intense and emotional things. So
right.
I exhibit my ADHD with my feelings and emotions. And but then you have my husband, who he's totally different, super ADHD, just as awesome as I am, but his is more hyper focused. He will get in, if he's working on something and somebody walks in, he will not be able to hear you. And it's not because he's rude. He genuinely is so focused in on whatever it is that he's working on that he doesn't know you're talking to him. Right. And that's where we're different. Because me, I try and have all the conversations at the same time.
I definitely identify with your husband. It's so bad. I would be driving with my kids and their mom, and we'd be driving down the street, and I would just tune out. I'd be in La La Land, and people would be talking to me, and I was just like, whoosh, I was on another planet thinking about how I'm fixing something or how I'm going to make money or something, solving a problem in my head.
Yeah, solving all the world problems. And I think that's one of the things that people don't really understand is everybody kind of exhibits it differently. Yes, it's under one umbrella, but there's so many different things that go into it. And you just have to embrace your superpower. I didn't realize I was funny until I started writing my book. And then I started getting on stages and I'm getting more and more into that. And it's like, okay, I can just say the things that happen in my head that I think are normal and everybody else thinks it's hilarious. So,
Yep.
I mean, it works out. But so, Doug, I learned something very interesting. I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe it was during my book launch, but I did not realize that neurodivergent is not a medical term.
Really?
Mm-mm. Somebody just like came up with it, and it means that you identify or you feel like you're not normal. I don't remember the exact definition, but it's not something that physicians recognize.
That's interesting. But
yeah, I wish I would have known that before I put it in my book title, but hindsight.
I think that's a really powerful realization, because it seems to be the way that the rest of the muggles kind of identify us.
The muggles. Oh,
they are, right? They're just muggles, right? They're just mad that we have all the magic, My problem, I'll tell you where my ADHD power is. My problem solving capability is off the charts. If I hear someone complaining of a problem, even if I don't know them, I'll be in a store and I'll just have a solution for them, and I'll walk over and say, hey, did you try this? It is so bad.
Awesome. I love that, because you're helping people.
I make a lot of friends. And the odd part is like I certainly don't know everything, and not all of my solutions work. I'm not saying that at all. But I have to say, more often than not, which is to say certainly over 50% of the time, I have a solution that works for people. And, it's weird, which is why I went into business for myself, doing computers, because computers is just problem solving all day, and one of the things about us neurodivergents, because we're just going to call ourselves wizards and witches for this conversation, because we already went with the muggle. We went with the muggle whole, thing. So we're all part of the Harry Potter universe. But one of the things about having the superpower is that I think so fast. My thought process is so rapid. I can go through 3, 4, 5 different versions of a thing while someone is still trying to figure out the first version in their head. And I didn't know that for a long time. And people would actually get frustrated with me because I'd have a conclusion that I wanted to talk about. Again, not that it was right, but I'd reached a conclusion and I'd still be waiting for them. But on the outside, it's the exact reverse for me. If I have to do something not in my head, I'm the slow one. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. Now I have the like super speed in my head, but it never goes in a logical direction.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I went from worried about my barn roof yesterday because there's an acorn tree or whatever, the kind of tree that drops acorns, and it's dropping like hundreds of acorns, to my husband walked outside and said, what are you doing? Are you looking for the squirrel? And I'm like, I am. There's this little black squirrel out there trying to get the acorns. And this is where my problem solving comes in, is it makes absolutely no sense. I was trying to find the hole that the squirrel was putting his acorns in so I can get a ladder and put him in there for it. To help him, because he wanted there's hundreds and hundreds of them. And I wound up buying a squirrel bar. I'm very excited. It'll be here in a couple of days.
A squirrel barn?
A squirrel bar. It has little bar stools. And you fill it with... So I'm putting the acorns in it. I'm going to collect all the acorns that he can't. Because this one little we have black squirrels, but this one little black squirrel is going crazy trying to get as many as possible. And when we walk through our driveway, it gets angry. It was trying to play chicken with us the other day. We're in a truck, dude. You're little.
Territorial squirrels? I've never seen. Keep going like this. Is it like a chipmunk?
No, it's I don't know. It's a black squirrel. This is why I have to be self-employed, and this is why I need to be an entrepreneur, because if I get off track, it's on me, right? It's my productivity.
I'm still on the black squirrel. I want to talk. I want to talk about the black squirrel. Is it totally all black, or does it have a stripe?
No, they're all black.
It's like the venom of squirrels.
Yeah, there's a story. I don't remember the story, so I'm not going to try and regurgitate it. But there was a story about something about on the other side of the state when these black squirrels came in. I don't know how they came over on a spaceship or something. I have no idea. But something about they were mean and they would castrate the other squirrels with their teeth. I don't know. I've got to look up this story because somebody told me once, and I'm pretty sure it was BS, but I've always been a little scared of these squirrels.
highly specific for an animal with a brain that small.
Like chipmunk size, right?
Right. It's like, I don't know. That's wow. Poor. So
But
you have,
that's a
yeah,
thing about how I lead in business. I lead with my heart, and that can be a problem because of my ADHD, neurodivergence, whatever we call it. I lead with my heart, and that can, So my husband and I owned an insurance agency for 17 years, and I got hurt a lot because I loved those people so much, and I wanted them to have their metaphorical acorns all
right.
winter. Now, if this squirrel hurts my feelings, it's done. We're over forever.
So prior to getting married, did you ever make any bad relationship choices with like personality types?
Yes.
There's a follow-up question for this, but go ahead, or at least a statement.
Yes, I made a lot of really bad relationship choices because of well, I'm going to let you give your follow-up statement because I have a feeling it's probably about what I was about to say.
I am attracted to the worst variant of human being. It's like, I'm always trying to save him. I'm always trying to fix him. And, and it's definitely a type. And worse than that, like I have a couple of friends. We go out all the time. It's like, look, I think you're going to be fine if you just make better decisions. But no, he has changed that based on scientific observations because they gravitate to me. They gravitate to me. And it's a little personal. I'm not going to tell you how, but they find me. And then I'm like, oh, you're broken. You need to heal.
Yes, and you want to be that, the one that there's somewhere deep down, and I actually talk about that in my book, somewhere deep down, like generational curse, I don't know, but I have a need to be needed. And so I used to be attracted to people that needed me.
Yeah.
And thank God my husband did not need me. And he was 8 years older than me and not my type at all. But we found each other at the right time, and we've been married for, I don't know, however long it is, since 2006. I think 17 years, right? But prior to that, yeah, and that is very common in neurodivergent ADHD people, that we're attracted to the wrong people. Sometimes it's maybe because we feel like we want to save them. Sometimes it's because of the thrill. For me, a lot of times it was the thrill. I used to go for bad boys.
Yeah, I definitely go for bad girls. Like if I meet a woman and her life is absolutely a train wreck, I'm like, oh my God, she's amazing. And then you start talking and it's like, So that's my red flag, right? If I see a woman and I think, whether I've talked to her or not, or maybe I am talking to her, and the more she talks, I'm like, wow, if I am instantly attracted to her, like on those levels, and I'm not just talking physically, like, wow, like I feel this connection. I'm like, all right, that's a red flag for me, right? Because something about my subconscious has picked up. It's that problem solving, really. Something about my subconscious has picked up that their life is a train wreck. And it's like, all right, there's a project. Right?
I just pieced it all together because my husband had to kind of stalk me a little bit. And I wonder if that's why. I wonder if it's because he was not a super train wreck.
Right.
So I was like, not super interested. And I'm glad that he pursued. When I say stalk, it was like a week, and we moved in together 3 weeks later, and we've been together since 2005. Math's not my strong suit, but I hadn't even really pieced that together. But that's really funny that you brought that to my attention.
I've done a lot of work over the last 4 years, 3.5, 4 years, and it's an interesting journey. So on this podcast we talk about personal growth because entrepreneurs, business owners, you cannot not learn something about yourself, and oftentimes, if not always, for most of us, the reason what's in the way of our next level of success, leveling up, is something about us that we have to learn and grow from, right? And so ADHD was the first thing, right? There's many things for me. Like I'm your typical dumpster fire. I'm just I'm so much fun though. I can tell you, lots of lights and flashing and sparkly, but there's just so much to do, personally. And so ADHD, I love that we're talking about it. It seems to be a common theme among a lot of entrepreneurs, and they're high performers and they get hyper focused and like do. And then there's like a little blow up because something distracts us and we take our eye off the ball for 10 minutes, an hour, a year. And then it's like, what's happening to my amazing company? It was doing so good. And so, yeah, so here we are.
Yeah. And, one of the biggest things for me as far as personal development. So, in the however many 17 years, I think that we had the insurance agency, because we got married and then started an insurance agency. It was crazy. But we both, I would say in the last 5 years, we really just deep dived into the personal development world. And one of the biggest things I got from it is, one, be careful who you give a whole lot of money to for personal development. But two, the big thing, because I'm there again, it's those impulsive decisions. Oh my gosh, I have to have that course, or oh my gosh, I have to go to the conference.
Right.
But one of the biggest things is, when I would go to those conferences or buy those courses, the people on the stages and behind the camera owned their ADHD. They owned their whatever it is. They, took it by the horns or the squirrel nuts or whatever you want to call it, and just ran with it and didn't let it control them. And that was huge for me,
Right.
because I hid my neurodivergence. I felt like I had to be the buttoned up business insurance agent. As soon as I go with that, my business exploded, my recruiting exploded, because people were attracted to me, not this buttoned up thing that I thought I had to be because I had the word insurance in my title. That was, and I've learned a lot for personal, but owning myself and being authentic and true to me has been the biggest thing.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that for a lot of people who have ADHD, there's a lot of shame to overcome, because, the way I've experienced it, and I still do it, it's just not as much. You get better over time, but you make a decision, or you make an impulsive decision, or there was something related to your ADHD and you're like, oh my God, why'd I do it? And you're just like beating yourself up. And so there's a lot of shame that's there. And you get to the point where it's like, I know what that was. So that's all right. No problem. I'll fix it. I know what that was. I'm not going to get hung up on it, because it's like this, it feeds the cycle, right? You get into that cycle where you're beating yourself up and you just feel so horrible, and you can't stop thinking about it. And then you go and make another dumb mistake. It's a tough thing. And I think a lot of people suffer from that.
Absolutely. And, sometimes for me in business, at least, the mistake was putting something off. I would put it off. And because you're talking about, kind of it just
procrastination. Yeah.
Would procrastinate something. And then I would talk myself out of it, because, I can't call this person this day because they might have whatever. I don't know. It's a holiday in Japan. I don't know. And then the next day it's lunchtime. And then I forget until lunchtime the next day. And then we wind up for years later, and the problem that was so minor has snowballed into this huge thing. And I wind up losing business over it because of the shame. I didn't want to admit I made a mistake and forgot to make a phone call or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of people who have ADHD, if they just know, look, that's just part of the process, it takes a little of the edge off, maybe a lot. I know it does for me, right? There are just some things our brain does, right? And there are coping mechanisms. Did you go over coping mechanisms in your book, like eating right and sleep and working out and eating the right herbs and stuff like that?
There's a bonus section on my website. I only had so much space in the book, and it took me 13 months to write it, which is appropriate for a book on ADHD, right?
How many times did you procrastinate? No.
Oh my gosh. So my editor took out 3/4 of my intro, because I had this, it was hilarious, because I talked about Jeremy Streifels, which is a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
And it was so funny, but 3/4 of it was talking about how hard it was to write the book and all the procrastination and everything I put off. And she's like, in the notes off to the side, she said, I took a lot of this out because I think you got your point across. I was like, no. I did, but I procrastinated a lot. And it was that too. It's here, I put all this money into an editor and all of the things. And then, yeah, it became.
You just gave me this awesome idea. And so there's a lot of coaches out there, right? But there's no specific ADHD coaches. And you had said before, be careful about who you're giving your money to, right? In terms of coaches. So just like every, occupation, there are good coaches, there are bad coaches, and there are coaches that literally are not a fit. And I think a lot of the coaches that don't work out are in that last category. There's a lot of coaches that are out there that are all about energy and getting you motivated. And that's fantastic, because a lot of people do need motivation, but a lot of people need more, or something entirely different than just motivation. And for me, I don't want to be spending $5,000 a month for an attaboy. So I think when it comes to coaching, it's important to try them out first for a few weeks. Like I do a full month. Like don't sign a contract. Tell them you just want to try them out a couple times and see if if you guys have chemistry. Like it's just like dating, because if it's not going to work, I mean, you could have the best coach in the universe. Everyone could be raving about them. And if you don't have the right chemistry, they're not going to be able to do anything for you. And that has nothing to do with them either.
Yeah. No, I have two coaches that learned really quickly how to get to me. And they know that, at a girl, stuff like that. That's not, I mean, I need that, but I get that from everybody else around me.
Right.
Whatever. I was about to say something and I don't remember what it was. Fitting. But these two guys have learned how to communicate with me and will reach out. And, one of them the other day, I joined this because I'm actually I'm working now on starting a course for ADHD people on how to overcome that, especially in business, and not try and hide behind it, but own it. And, so I sent this to my coach and he called me on my crap because he knows I need that. He said, there's a lot of implementation in there and you actually have to follow through, because he knows me well enough to know. So going through this course, every time I started to like close it or, get distracted or text or something while I was watching it, I heard that in my head. Man, Steve's going to be disappointed in me if I don't actually follow through and implement. And so you're absolutely right. And I've worked with people, not necessarily coaches, but mentors that they think it's one size fits all. It is absolutely not one size fits all. Because I guarantee you, we're both ADHD. Our communication styles are completely different.
Oh, without a doubt.
And it takes somebody to be able to recognize that and be like, okay, Lori needs to, feel like I'm going to be disappointed in her, or, I called her on her crap because I need to be called on my crap because I don't do a very good job of doing it myself a lot. And, maybe Doug needs the attaboys. We already discovered that you don't, but you know what I mean? Like totally different. And so you do need to try it out, because some coaches are going to be just that one size fits all. And they're going to be this, that, and the other. And that doesn't work for me. Right.
Yeah. I think for ADHD people, they need an accountability coach, but it's not someone that beats them up, because we'll beat ourselves up. They'll just say, hey, did you follow through on this? Oh no, I forgot. Well, okay, get it done. And then when we show up next time, we're like, holy crap, I don't want to show up not doing that. I'll disappoint them.
Exactly.
So just having someone to talk to review what we said we were going to do helps us to follow through. And for ADHD and all our procrastination, it's enormous, because we'll obsess about it. Yeah. So like, I've never seen any coach exclusively an ADHD coach, right? Like the people who one size fit alls, they'll just throw it in there, and neurodivergent, neuroatypical, right? Muggles. They don't know what they're talking about.
Muggles. I'm totally stealing that. I love it so much.
But it's true. It's true. It's a funny, friendly way of saying, hey, look, all the people over there that self-identify as normal, who are probably messed up in some other way, just like they like to get judgy, some of them, right? Because we are like, I'm a lot. Like if I get going, I am a lot. Especially if I'm problem solving or if I'm talking and I'm like, oh, did you try this? All right, what about this? Oh, before I give you that answer, did you try this one? Right? So I am a lot, because I will just like, have you ever experienced this? Like you'll just be on for so long and then you'll just come into your cocoon. You just got to regenerate. Like you can't do it anymore. It's like, oh my God.
Don't touch me. Don't look at me.
Right. They're going to expect me to solve their problems again. They're going to spitball something at me, and I got to regurgitate something. I'm just ain't into it right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so hard. Like and it's one of the reasons why I went for the diagnosis, right? Because I wanted to know, how do you deal with it? And how do you explain it to somebody, right? Because someone who sees me, right, just infrequently will think, well, Doug's got energy. He's such a good guy. He's so helpful. He's knowledgeable. He's willing to give you ideas. But no one can be like that all the time, right? So if you see me long enough, you get to see the other side where I'm quiet and I want my space, and I like, look, I need you to leave me alone for a little while.
I mean, my husband I'm literally in a closet for a reason. well, one, because audio quality, but also, and I have my furry wall, but because I need that. You said cocoon, and I was laughing looking around at the fabric around me because I need that cocoon. And I can come in here, and if it's bigger than a closet, I'm going to have it cluttered. Heck, I have this closet cluttered already, which is insane. But he knew that I need that. And, you know, you mentioned that we both know, like, we've been together for like almost half of my adult life. We're both ADHD. We both do that. We both need our cocoon time, but we both tend to get our feelings hurt when the other, you know, when I'm like high energy and want to like go do all the things, and he just needs his downtime and needs to like, borrow my closet. I mean, still to this point, it can hurt my feelings, even though I know, but you know, we can remind ourselves and be like, seriously, yesterday was your down day. Yes. You know, yesterday you needed to go do whatever it is, and kind of remind each other.
You know, you just reminded me of something when I was doing all this research on ADHD, and I wish I could remember the woman's name. I'm going to find the link and put it in the bottom of this video for anyone who wants to find it. And I was listening to this woman. She had this this seminar that she had posted on Google about this, and she talked about how 20% of the population is born sensitive. And that doesn't mean all sensitive people have ADHD, but a lot of us who have ADHD are sensitive, right? Most of us are, especially when you consider that, you know, people with ADHD usually suffer from rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is when someone says no to us, we immediately have a negative emotional response, like we're hurt, right?
Yep.
And listen to someone else explain it, and they said that sensitive people are born, like he said, the best way to think about it is imagine that something happens, maybe you get like a first degree burn and you lose the first layer of your skin. It's going to heal, but it's not, you know, it's still pretty serious because just touching it hurts. Just touching it even a little hurts. And the way he used that metaphor is he says, imagine this, that sensitive people, they don't have that layer of skin over their emotions. So whenever you touch them with an emotion, and by the way, it goes both ways. Like, I don't know if you notice, like when you love someone, you really love someone. When you're happy, you're really happy. When you're grateful, you're really grateful, right? But the problem is
crazy deep.
Right. So the problem with rejection sensitivity dysphoria is that you're more likely to feel rejection, and you have that sensitivity. So when you do feel rejected, you're not like, I'll live. No, it's like getting stabbed in the heart. You say, honey, I saw you were here. I ran out, got you a soda. And you'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't drink that right now. Just put it over there. And we'll be like, oh my God, that hurts so much.
Yeah. Okay. Can I tell a super funny story?
Yeah.
Okay. So my husband and I had an insurance agency for 17 years or however long it was. And we were business to business outside sales. Imagine being uber sensitive to rejection, being in outside sales, where you need to see 100 people to get 5 to listen to you and 1 to say yes. And when I first got out on my own, when I was with somebody else and I had somebody else to lean on, it was fine. But when I first got on my own, I would literally cry in front of people. These business owners would be like, no, thanks for coming in, but we're all set. And I would like get all teary eyed and my voice would crack and I'd go in my car and cry for an hour. I would literally like sit and cry in the car every time I got told no. It sounds funny if you don't. You can probably kind of relate to that a little bit, but
100%.
People that aren't that way may not be able to relate, but it genuinely hurt my soul. And, you know, even in interviews, if I interviewed somebody and I really, really liked them and I wanted to come onto the team and it wasn't for them, or, you know, people always miraculously got their dream job as soon as they left my office, but, you know, they got their dream job, I would take it personally and I would be upset for days sometimes. Like if there was a great person that I'm like, oh, what did I do wrong? Is it because they don't like me? And when I started owning it, and literally in interviews, I would tell people, I'm probably going to get us off track. I'm super ADHD, but that's what people love about me. Whenever I put that on the table, the rejection didn't hurt so much because it's like, okay, it's not necessarily because they didn't like me. And if they did, whatever, that's them because I'm pretty cool. But
I experienced something similar. So I used to work in my youth when I was 22 for a citizens action group, and we just go and ask people to donate money and stuff for certain topics. And a lot of that was like, no, get out of here. No, get out of here. I don't believe in that. Get out of here. Right. It was pretty brutal. And so you can, like, I've noticed if I am conscious of it, right, it makes it easier. You still feel it. It's still like getting punched, right? But at least you see the punch coming. So it's not like this huge shock. But what I learned is the cumulative effect over the course of a day or a week was enormous. Like, I was constantly depressed. You know, like, this is clearly not my gig. This is not my thing. And it helped me build up a little bit of a resistance to it. There's no doubt. But life is weird. You get distracted, right? And if you're distracted, and this is what's really hard about ADHD, is we'll be hyper focused on a thing and something will come out of nowhere. Like a child will be hurt. You know, your significant other will be upset about something. You'll be just so focused. You'll be walking down the street and someone will just slam into you because they're not paying attention either. And all those things just send, you know, it's like you ever feel that sensation? You jump inside, like you scream inside. That's what happens. And it's hard to explain that to people, like, oh, you're just too sensitive. Oh, you got to calm down. There's no control over it. If you see it coming, you can kind of brace yourself for it. It's like getting a shot. It's always going to hurt. If you get a shot and someone doesn't tell you it's coming or that you're getting one at all, you're going to freak out. That's the best metaphor I can think of, right? And because
I totally get it.
It's always there. It's always there. And I hate it. I do. It's such a, I've had toxic people in my life figure it out that was there. And so they would mess with it just to see if they could get a reaction. And man, those people got to go. If anyone's listening, you have any of those people who think it's funny because they can get you to do a thing over and over again because you have no control over it, time to move on. Time to move on.
I feel like people feel like they can easily manipulate us because of it. At least that's what I ran into a lot.
Yeah.
And I think is exactly what you're saying. You know, use us, manipulate, whatever to get what they want. And that was something in business that happened to me a lot. And once I finally realized it was happening, I realized that's not where my joy was anymore. Right? Like I needed to work with people that understand and respect that part of me, because those people love when I feel really deep. They love it whenever I want to do nice things and I listen to them when they need to talk. But when it comes the other side of the, you know, being emotional and hypersensitive to things, they didn't want that part. But like you said, there's give and take. All of the fun things, like we're crazy fun at parties. I guarantee you are too. But there's the downside to that. At some point, we're going to come down and need, you know, the cocoon or whatever.
It's the dopamine, right? Because it works. I mean, the dopamine in our head works the same, because every time we get a dopamine hit, we get a little bit, not even a little bit, right? You get a little withdrawal, and it happens quickly. It can happen in minutes. So you're going to do something else for a larger dopamine hit. And so you will, and then you come down even further. It just, at some point, you get so high, you fall. That's it. You ain't beating that last one. You need to go. Right. And it's just dopamine. It's just dopamine. And, you know, like I said, there are ways of doing that. You want to know what one of my secret weapons for dopamine, right, that's non-medicated, is cold showers. Cold showers in the morning.